Most people have been taught to approach wealth the same way they approach fitness or business. Control yourself, stay disciplined, and keep showing up, and eventually the results will follow. That sounds logical, and in some cases it works. But if you've ever done everything right and still felt like progress was slow, inconsistent, or strangely out of sync, then you've already felt the gap most people can't explain. What you're about to read is not about choosing one side over the other, but seeing where Western leadership thinking stops and where Chinese metaphysics starts to fill in what's missing. Master your emotions and you'll win. That's the Western leadership's take on investing and wealth, and it sounds intelligent because it shifts the focus from the market to the individual. Still, it quietly assumes that if you become disciplined, calm, and rational enough, the outcomes will eventually work in your favor.
Chinese metaphysics doesn't disagree with emotional control, but it cuts deeper and asks a more uncomfortable question. What if you're calm, but still acting at the wrong time? Because in this system, time is not neutral, and no amount of emotional mastery can fully compensate for being out of sync with the cycle. Don't try to time the market. Just stay consistent. This advice has been repeated so often that it sounds like truth, and for many people, it prevents reckless behavior. But it also creates a blind spot where people stop observing when conditions are actually favorable or hostile and instead default to mechanical action. Chinese metaphysics doesn't promote gambling or short-term speculation. Still, it is very clear on one thing. There are better windows and worse windows to act, and ignoring that is not discipline. It's choosing to operate without awareness of the environment you're in. The market is a mirror of your emotions. That's a neat way to explain panic selling and herd behavior, and it helps people take responsibility for their reactions. Still, it reduces the entire game to psychology and overlooks the structure behind it. From a Chinese metaphysics lens, the market is not just a mirror, it's also a reflection of cycles, and cycles move whether you are emotionally stable or not. Which means two people with identical discipline can still get completely different results simply because one entered at the right phase and the other did. The best investors are the calmest. This sounds wise, and it flatters the idea that emotional control is the ultimate edge, but it also creates a dangerous illusion that calmness alone is enough to produce results. Chinese metaphysics reframes this sharply. Calmness without timing is just slow failure. Because being patient in the wrong phase doesn't make you strategic. It just means you're holding on to something that isn't ready to move. Just stay invested and let time do the work. This is probably the most comforting advice of all, because it removes the need to think, decide, or act with precision, and replaces it with passive trust that everything will work out eventually. Chinese metaphysics doesn't reject long-term thinking, but it challenges the passivity behind it. Because time doesn't reward everyone equally. It rewards those who understand when to move, when to scale, and when to protect. Without that awareness, people aren't investing. They're just hoping. So what's really going on here? Western leadership builds strong individuals who can manage themselves under pressure. But Chinese metaphysics builds individuals who understand the environment in which they operate. And the difference between the two is subtle until it isn't. One tells you to become better so you can survive any condition, while the other tells you to recognize which conditions you should be acting in. When you combine both, that's when effort finally stops feeling random and starts compounding in a way most people never experience. If this made you pause for a second, good, because most people never question the assumptions they've been operating under for years. And that's exactly why they stay stuck doing more, but getting less. I break this down further in the Destiny Architect Telegram channel, where we stop guessing and start to understand how timing, structure, and decisions actually come together in real